Welcome to Third Side, everybody. I'm John Shaw.
I'm Jared McGee.
Today, Jared, we're going to start a great plan here that you've come up with. Thank you, by the way. Genius. We want to call it Light to Dark or Light to Darkness. We'll figure that out. And I guess by the time we release it, you'll see what the thing says, and that's what it's going to be. But
that works.
Yeah. You had the wonderful idea of talking to people that have not read the Satanic Bible yet, but are interested in reading it. So
Right.
we're going to do this thing where we talk to them before they read it and then talk to them afterward. I think it'll be pretty interesting, man. Really good idea, Jared. Thank you for that.
It just came to me one night. What if we could capture?
That's nice. So anyway, we're going to, no, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
What if we could capture for the first time ever the transition, watching someone get that enlightenment? Because you've heard us all. We've all had those groups.
Or endarkenment.
Yeah, the endarkenment. We're in those groups, we talk, and we always talk about how reading it's like looking into a mirror. What if we could capture that transition and watch it happen? Not literally. We're not going to watch them read it, but, as close to that as we can.
Jared, why don't you tell us about Amber?
I met Amber online on Facebook, surfing through the groups to find, atheist groups. The topic of Satanism always comes up, and she struck me. She stood out as, reasonable and rational. So I asked her if she had read the Satanic Bible. She said no, and I extended an invitation, and here we are. Thanks for joining us, Amber.
Thank you for having me.
I got a question. What comes to mind when you hear the word Satanism?
I will be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's what you want.
Yeah.
Having been raised in a home with an atheist father who never spoke about it, he stayed silent about his atheism. But my mother is a fundamental evangelist. And so I was basically programmed and brainwashed, that Satanism and church of, Satan worship, etc., was just is the word abhorrent. It's evil, and there's child sacrifices and bloodletting and worshiping the devil, and horrible things will happen to you, and that it's just the most horrible thing that a person could ever choose. Honestly, it was I always thought of it as being something very scary. Mm-hmm. About 5 years ago, I met someone who was educated in comparative religion and religious studies. And although I met them through someone I knew, our initial introduction was on Facebook. And as an atheist, I didn't know he was an atheist, but he started posting memes and conversation information that at that time I found very blasphemous to Christianity. Even though I was never a church goer, I believed it, and I prayed for things, and not like material things, but for someone to get better or what have you. And I was just appalled at the things I was reading, and just shocked to say things like that. And then I became curious, and so I began researching the different little things, the little tidbits he would throw out there, and it changed my life. I found out that most of what he was saying was absolutely true, and there was a whole another story behind Christianity and organized religions that I was completely uneducated on. Mm-hmm. And I ended up becoming an atheist as a result of that.
That's happened to a lot of people before, and that was a great segue right into the very next question I had ready for you. What aspects of Satanism have you already heard about or researched?
Gosh,
okay,
really? Really none. I did read a few lines briefly the night, I had said something and you called me out because my statement on the post was very ignorant, coming from having no knowledge on the subject, but thinking that I was knowledgeable. And as I had told you in our first conversation on Facebook, I took 5 or 10 minutes and I went over to Google and I looked it up and I was like, okay, well, that's not so bad. And something about gratification of ego, and that there were certain things that is probably okay that I couldn't disagree with, as long as you don't hurt another person. You can't, I mean, I feel, it's not acceptable to be cruel to others or to hurt somebody. Obviously, sometimes you'll have to do that to defend yourself or back yourself up in certain situations.
Or if they're begging for it, yeah.
But generally, you don't really want to go around, living your life to hurt other people. So
hey, if you did 5 minutes of research, you did more than most.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Amber, what are your thoughts on magic? Like, I don't know if you've ever heard the terms greater or lesser magic. Have you heard anything like that?
I have heard, and I don't know the difference. I don't know the differences. Sometimes I wish I could cast a spell. I'll be honest. I'm sure a lot of people wish they could. Yeah.
I would have my room clean every time. That's how I would do it. That's all I need it for.
I need my car detailed too.
Well, you can, Amber, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So, when you heard about the gratification of the ego thing, how did that appeal to you, or did it at all?
Well, I it did appeal to me because there are certain things I was raised to believe, such as you wait until you are married to have intercourse. And I realized several years ago in a couple of failed marriages that you probably
to test drive the car before you buy it, right?
Exactly. So I'm sorry. I think I got a little sidetracked. Can you please repeat the question? Oh, what appealed to me?
It was test driving the car that got you, wasn't it?
Test drives.
What appealed to me is that it seemed, to the little bit that I read, it seemed to allow a person to be a human and to do things that were natural, as opposed to constantly restricting yourself, restricting natural urges or natural behaviors that come natural to just being a living creature.
Mm-hmm.
Did that make sense?
We know what you mean, exactly.
It does make sense. Do you
often I enjoy. Oh, sorry.
I'm
sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. For instance, I know that cigarette smoking is bad, but I enjoy it and I do it. But I'm not going to beat myself up about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
I mean, I guess that's a sample of something, a guilty pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if that's on track with the ego. I'll be quiet and let you move on.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
You're fine.
Do you often find yourself torn between friends as far as ideals? Like, say, for example, if politics or religion comes up, do you find yourself trying to find the best of both worlds, or do you does any of this sound like something that happens to you often?
Socially, I don't discuss those things much with people. I sort of get that out on Facebook.
Yeah. We know what you mean. Yeah.
So I don't really, sometimes there's an opportunity to participate or open up a discussion or introduce someone to an idea or information that I have, and but I try to be gentle. I try to make it interesting, as though it were just very interesting information. I don't ever try to convince someone, to join my side. You're wrong, I'm right. I might come across like that on Facebook sometimes, but in person I'm not like that.
Yeah,
it's admirable.
So in your in your quest for knowledge out there for other religions that you said did you find any certain religions that you completely abhor?
I've mostly only looked into the history of Christianity, because I just find it mind-boggling, especially coming from that belief system. But I recently decided that I was curious about Islam. So I did watch a BBC program about the history of Islam, and it didn't seem so horrible. Also, as I was led to believe, but obviously, it's not something I can commit to, because I only spent an hour learning about it, and there's already so much information out there about that. I find it to be oppressive and unnatural, and so I think would like to become more educated about it, but I don't think I'd ever convert.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on God, the concept of God?
I'm torn. Sometimes I'm absolutely convinced that we are just something that happened. The planet being able to develop and sustain life. That these are things that just happened. That time and space have gone on forever, and there doesn't have to be a creator. There doesn't need to be a creator, as so many religious people think there has to be. And at the same time, then there's another part of me that thinks that I do have a soul, but I don't necessarily think that there's an egotistical person that rules over that, and the part of me that believes in that believes that we have a soul also believes in the possibility of reincarnation. But I feel like, I know, I'm so sorry if this sounds weird, but I feel like instead of a God, that there's just a system in place. There's just a system, and we cycle through, and we're born, we die, and then we come born again, and we learn things in each with each lifetime, and that whatever's on the other side that most people think is going to judge them or reward them, possibly it's much more forgiving and much more understanding than what I was led to believe.
That makes sense. Okay.
Awesome.
I hope so.
Does your family know that you're an atheist?
I think my mom has a little hint. I wish my father would have lived long enough for me to share that with him, to have that conversation with him. My extended family knows. They don't really care. That's my Irish Catholic side, because they knew that my father was an atheist, and they just kind of let you be you. But my mother's side of the family is very evangelistic, and I haven't shared that with them, and they'd probably be very concerned. My mother is always, I want to spend eternity with you. It's like, well, we haven't gone to lunch in over a year. Why Why don't you enjoy me now while I'm here? And we know we have this for sure, as opposed to waiting for an afterlife that may or may not ever happen. What's important and what we know that we have is right now.
Here and now. Yeah, absolutely.
I completely agree. Do you have any thoughts about what you might find in the Satanic Bible before you read it? Or any expectations?
Yes. I'm thinking that I might find that it's nothing like what I thought. I'm thinking that I might like it. But I'm very interested to learn about it, and then there's a little part of me that that's still afraid because of how I was raised, and those thoughts, that programming is still there to some extent. And there was a time I was looking for structure in my life, and I explored the Mormon religion because my husband's family was Mormon. And I got into it. I started going to classes. I became active with the church. And then, after you're baptized and they've got you teaching a class and you're submersing, then all of a sudden you find out some information that's just a little weird. And so I pulled away, and I get a little bit afraid that, it's going to look all good on the outside, but that, pretty soon I'm going to be going to child sacrifices, and that's just my look at your eyes. And that's I mean, you wanted me to be honest, so I'm based on my are the thoughts in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we want. That's awesome.
So you'd also shared with me, we chatted a little bit, you told me a little story about you had a conversation with your daughter about coming on the show. Could you share that with us?
Oh, yes. I just told her I have something very interesting to tell you. And she said, what? And I said, well, I told her what happened, that I had just made a snappy, uninformed comment on Facebook, and that someone came back and said, no. You're ignorant because you don't know what you're talking about, and I'm the one who said it was ignorant. So and I said, so I took a few minutes and I did some reading, and I found out he was right. I came back and I said, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. And so he's asked me if I would be willing to participate in a podcast, and they're going to ask me some questions, then, without any knowledge, and then I'll read, do you call it the Bible, the Satanic Bible?
The Satanic Bible.
And, okay. And then I'm going to read that, and then we will return to discuss my feelings, after having become educated. And she just got so excited, and she was like, oh my God, Mom, I didn't tell you this because I thought you would be mad, and I didn't think you'd know it. But I have the Satanic Bible, and I've been in it, and I love it. And then that's when she started to share with me the things that she liked about it. I was like, no, you can't tell me anything.
Yeah.
So that basically sums it up.
Yeah. That conversation she's referring to, when I hopefully corrected her more politely than she phrased it there, but she did come back and apologize, and I was like, somebody just apologized and said they were wrong on the internet. We got a rare one here, and I was like, you know what? We can talk.
Yeah. No, that's the coolest thing.
If you're willing to admit you're wrong to a complete stranger on the internet, you've got to have some level of character that's worth discussing.
Yeah. So,
well, I think that's a really important thing for people to be able to do. And I was in a 15-year marriage with someone who could never admit that they were wrong, and I just never understood. And people told me, oh, that's the male pride, but I just don't think that's something to be proud of. If you can't admit that you're wrong, then how do we grow or learn and, have honest conversations and relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you? So this is the first time you've heard of the Satanic Bible? Is after the confrontation, I guess, online? Or?
I always knew that it existed, but
okay.
Out of fear, because of the things that I pictured in my head whenever it was brought up, I wouldn't. I don't know that I would have ever thought about it or learned about it or examined it had it not be for my comment. And actually, my comment on Facebook was rude.
Yeah.
And I called someone ignorant. And that's when he said, "Hey, wait a second. I don't think you know what you're talking about." Right. And I was like, "Eek, I think he's right. So I better look it up."
Ignorant's not a bad word. Ignorant just means lack of knowledge. It doesn't mean anyone's stupid or dumb. It's, those are different. But I got a question. We're going to switch gears here because I guess the gratification of the ego and things like that, it leads to like a physical thing too as well. And humans enjoy sex. So I was wondering how you felt about sex. Like, what are your thoughts on sex? Can women enjoy it?
Absolutely.
Great.
Well, they should. I think if they don't, things wrong.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on?
Natural.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on multiple partners or like gay or lesbian sex?
I personally prefer to be in a monogamous relationship. Mm-hmm. And I've never had a bisexual experience. I almost did a couple of times, but I chickened out. I really am more. I'm 100% heterosexual. I'm attracted to men. I'm not attracted to women, although there are some women that are so absolutely beautiful. But I'm not.
Yeah.
So, and I have no problem with people who are in homosexual relationships. I have some relatives that are homosexual and in very long-term, very strong relationships. And I believe that stems from I've watched some neuroscience lectures. I believe that stems from the brain physiology. There's all homosexuality and, like 1,500 other species on the planet. This is not unnatural. Not all intercourse has to result in procreation to make it right. So I think that be in trouble. So I think that I think it goes back to if you are not hurting someone, then what you want to do should be okay.
Awesome. Amber, we want to thank you for coming on. We're going to let you go and go read this thing, and we'll talk to you on the other side.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks for coming.
Wonderful.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right, we are back with Amber. She's just completed the Satanic Bible for the first time in her life. Amber.
Woohoo!
What are your thoughts? Quick, tell us. We're itching.
My thoughts are that
10 seconds.
Totally surprised. There's absolutely nothing I can disagree with.
Wow.
I know how you feel.
We know how you feel. We know how you feel. It explains me. Yeah, that's perfect. That's great. So, thank you for coming. Bye.
Next guest.
That's it. Who's next? No, that's really awesome. I mean, if I asked you what comes to mind, like the questions that we asked you before, what comes to mind when you hear the word Satanism? Well, how would you answer that now?
Now I see it in the way that freedom. We should feel free to enjoy the human experience, that abstinence from things that bring you pleasure doesn't always, I don't, oh, here I go again. So sorry. Doesn't always, isn't always like the high road. You know, we should enjoy being a human and being in the flesh and the things that are here for to delight our senses. Of course, never at the expense of another human.
Absolutely.
Or animal or any sentient being. But it's okay to enjoy life. And
we only get one of them, right?
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I think it represents freedom for me, the freedom to enjoy being a human. Recently, I've been moving more towards abstinence from things, would make me a better person. But I'm rethinking that, and maybe it's okay. It's okay to enjoy life. It's okay to enjoy certain things if you're not hurting another person.
Right. Absolutely.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you how much of what you just highlighted, because I think you covered it accurately. How much of that did you already feel before you read the book? Whether you wanted to admit it or not, but now that you look back, how much of that was already inside you?
A little. Well, I would have to say that a lot of it, because I haven't abstained from pleasure my entire life. As I've been getting older, I've moved towards a situation where I thought, you know, I needed to be kinder to other people and more gentle and more understanding. But recently, I've also been recognizing in my life that I lacked at drawing some necessary boundaries. Say in my relationships, say with my boss.
Yeah.
And after reading the first section of the book, I really the part that really resonated with me is where you know, you don't the turning the other cheek.
Yeah.
No, I don't need to turn the other cheek. I don't need to let people abuse me in order for me to feel like I'm in the right place. Oh, I'm the kinder person. I'm the bigger person. I'm the better person. You know, sometimes that's appropriate. But there are a lot of times when, you know, kindness and turning the other cheek will only get you so far.
Slapped.
Like we said earlier, you only have one life.
It gets you slapped.
So why waste time with something that's not going to serve you? And people who want to keep slapping the other cheek or whatever you want to call it, that's a real waste of, you know, of yourself. I think of your.
You run out of cheeks, right?
Yes.
Pretty much.
So
Sorry if that's been verbose.
No, it's great. We couldn't
fine.
agree more. So, I mean, essentially, reading the book for you, what I'm getting was sort of a liberation, right?
Yes, and actually, it falls in line with some realizations I've been having about my own life and changes that I need to make as far as drawing boundaries, and then of course not being so hard on myself about trying to abstain from certain things. I mean, I still believe I need to quit smoking.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing. But I don't need to feel so guilty for being a human. Being human is not a bad thing. It's natural.
It's amazing. Yeah. We love it.
It's worked out for me so far.
Yeah. Just to have that embracing of yourself as a human, as a carnal being. I find that to be a beautiful thing, you know, and not everyone can experience that. you know. So welcome to that fold, you know. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel that after having read this, you will identify like using the dreaded S word, or how does that feel? Like, how does that fit?
At this point, I'm uncomfortable with it because I am concerned about other people's judgment. Um, because of my own programming and what's in my head and how long it takes to overcome programming or brainwashing.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I think a lot of our members would resonate with that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, good. I'm
I've
thankful.
heard that from a number of people that said that they identified right away, but it's just years and years and years of being told that it's one thing. It doesn't go away the second you read a book for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
It takes some time to rend those rusty padlocks, you know. So
yeah, you got to think about it. Some people read it again. Some people started communicating with other members and things like that, and then it gets easier. And then some people just dove straight into it, like, oh yeah, this was ready to go. So I think a lot of the people who are watching this will resonate with exactly what you said. So
absolutely,
it's definitely, you're definitely not the first to come up with that one.
So do you plan to one, read it again, and do you plan to read other works by LaVey?
I do.
Oh, great.
I do. I'd like to finish the book. I would like to reread the first portion that I just read, and then I would like to go ahead and finish the book. And then I'd like to connect with other people, maybe via Facebook, just to learn more, and to, as far as I know, I've never socialized with a Satanist, but I think that would be the next step, is to get to know some people who identify with it and learn more about it.
There's a lot of fine folks out there. You'll know. Don't be discouraged by certain people that might not be interested in answering any of your questions. Don't take offense to it, because we're all human. So there's some people are busy, some people are assholes, some people are really cool, and that's just how it goes. But that's in everything.
Well, I made the transition from Christianity to atheism probably in 2012. And I'm still, I think my programming was heavy, as I said in the first interview. My mother is pretty headstrong evangelist, and so I'm brainwashed pretty heavily. So I've still been experiencing the freedom, feeling the stage of the progression from Christianity to atheism. So now this is, a whole new chapter, and so it's I look forward to exploring it and learning more and
awesome.
Seeing what happens.
The fun part is when you feel guilty for not feeling guilty about enjoying things. Like, once you're in that conversion from Christianity to atheism, and then especially when you pick up the Satanic Bible, you start enjoying certain things, and there's still traces of that brainwashing, so you feel guilty because, a year ago, a month ago, a week ago, you shouldn't have enjoyed this, and now you're like, it's okay,
Right.
and it's exciting, and then all of a sudden, one day, you're just like, you don't even feel guilty anymore. You're like, hell yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Really, like I said, liberating. So do you plan on to read, what are some of the books that you plan to read? Maybe the next one or something. Is there some one you have in mind?
Well, first I need to finish this one.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm open to suggestions. If you have any suggestions or recommendations,
I would definitely suggest The Satanic Witch.
Okay.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna go from another one of Dr. LaVey, it's definitely The Satanic Witch, and then you got to get the Satanic Scriptures by the current high priest, for sure. That really one, it's very candid. It's very direct. It's to the point. A lot less theatrical flair in some of his essays. He just hammers it straight to the point. So I find the two to be very, very balancing, because the Satanic Bible is certainly, it's got some, it's definitely got the theatrical flair to it. It's like a show. I mean, it reads like a show, but then there's the Satanic Scriptures where it's a focused laser, and the very, I don't even know, I'm kind of tripping over it. John, help me out here.
It's a good book, Amber. It's really good.
Good book.
Yeah.
What I'm saying.
But the Satanic Witch, if I could comment on it a little bit, it's like I'm almost going to say an owner's manual for women. You read it and you'll identify with certain things that are in there. And LaVey, studying the human animal all his life, has come to realize certain traits and certain skills and talents of women that make them successful and happy in life and powerful women. It's a great book. It's really a great book. Okay. And men read it so that we can find out what's going on with women. How you guys are doing that stuff. It's a great book. Really good book.
Okay, good. Maybe I'll do that one next.
Yeah, that would be a good one. And I think it's on Amazon as well.
Are any of these available online or do?
Oh yeah, Amazon. Amazon has a greater portion of them. Yes.
Oh, the electronic version, or do you have to order the book?
Yeah, I don't believe there's any electronic versions. I
okay.
Definitely get the book.
We need to fix that.
Yeah, I don't recall. Jared, do you know? Do you know if there's like a Kindle version? I don't believe so. I don't recall, so I could be wrong.
I don't think so. I know that there was I remember hearing somebody talk about there's a couple versions of electronics things that were actually authorized in a few different books, but definitely not the Satanic Bible. But that doesn't matter. You already got it. Honestly, I just like books. I never really paid a whole lot of attention to which electronic versions were available because I like the actual book. I like the smell of the book, the feel of the book.
Me too. The Satanic Witch is available in the Kindle edition. Yeah, it's a $9.99 Kindle, and The Devil's Notebook is available. That's another one by Anton LaVey, and so
you'll
be
find
careful what you
yourself,
search for. Don't read everything that has the word satanic in it, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's really not good. But if you want to know, definitely visit churchofsatan.com, and you can read their recommended reading list, and those are the actual books, the real books about Satanism.
Okay. And I do have a question, but I'm so sorry. I'm not sure if I should wait until after the interview is finished. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
What is it?
Okay, so all of my life, I've, as we've discussed, I've had that programming and that teaching about what Satan worshipers or what Satanism was.
Yeah.
And in learning about and critiquing, not many, but some of the other religions, say Christianity and Catholicism, I've always considered, I've always, when I see someone who I think is really evil or does really horrible things, or watching some of the services at the Vatican, and I mean, I find it to be very repulsive, and so I've always used this, they're Satan worshipers. I've always used that line to dismiss someone or something that I thought was, evil. Mm-hmm. And after reading this book, of course, I don't find what's described in the book to be evil in any way. So now, what's my new word? What's
See, that's the thing. I don't believe in good and evil. I don't, just as I don't believe in heaven and hell. It's here. It's just here around us right now. We are both good and evil. So I look at it as more of along the lines of a productive and unproductive thing. So, there's a lot of people out there that just aren't wired right. There's a lot of people out there that find enjoyment in hurting others, and we call them
against their will.
We call them theists. But
well, the other thing to keep in mind,
that's a theist.
The other thing
to
keep in mind is that we aren't Satan worshipers; we're Satanists. So you could technically still use it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could technically still use it because we're not Satan worshippers.
That's
we're
true.
Satanists.
That's true. Satanist is a whole different definition.
Yeah.
That's
So if
great.
you want to
Okay.
keep using it, keep using it.
All right.
We talked a lot about, or a little bit about, how you feel about gender equality and can women enjoy sex and double standards. What was your reaction to finding the liberation of sexuality in the Satanic Bible?
It wasn't. I don't think it's any different than it was to begin with.
Right.
Honestly, I personally am monogamous, but I don't judge others for what they enjoy or what they engage in.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if it makes you happy and it doesn't hurt someone else, that's fine. That's fine with me. But I was really very pleasantly surprised with everything that it had to say about sex or relationships, etc. There was, like I said originally, there was nothing that I could disagree with.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you. It's to discover that and take those words in and find that they resonate with you and you agree with them. That's a good feeling, and I would revel in that. That's great. I want to thank you for coming on, Amber. This has been fun.
Oh, thank you. Well, I was going to say,
Yeah,
I think
I
what
really
my daughter
appreciate it.
said was,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I appreciate it, and thank you for your patience. And I did want to say, like, my daughter said, Mom, I think you're going to find out you already were a Satanist and you didn't know it. And I think that might be true.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you after you read the Satanic Witch. That would be great.
Okay,
There you go.
sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.